Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. NASCAR playoffs, well, they mercifully came to an end this weekend. The World of Outlaws wrapped up 2020, and we say goodbye to some folks, as it is in NASCAR this time of year, every year. Some of the folks we say farewell as they transition to new spots, and some we seriously say goodbye to. We've got all of this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report. We're live for you Monday, November the 9th, 2020. From the shores of Lake Norman in Ray City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina, I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. No reason to miss a show. We plop them right in your mailbox. Easy to find, and it makes me look good. Someday I'll maybe catch Justin Bieber when it comes to subscribers. Good to see everybody tonight. Let's begin with our Speedway Report Victory Lane Lap for the second full weekend in November. First full weekend in November, actually. Getting deeper into the fall, which, gosh, what a year it has been with COVID-19 just playing havoc and the funky chicken with every schedule in the world. NASCAR National Touring went out to Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Ruth Ann, good to see you tonight. All the top four guys in the four-man shootout for the championship, they won their races and won their championships. Yesterday, Chase Elliott won the Cup race and is now the 2020 champion. Austin Cindric is your champion for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and Sheldon Creed is your NASCAR Truck Series champion. NASCAR's ARCA Series West also ran their season finale on the mile at Phoenix. David Gilliland was your race winner. Jesse Love is the series champion for this year. World of Outlaw Late Models and the World of Outlaw Sprints concluded their seasons at the dirt track here in Charlotte, which we've nicknamed the Dust Track for the conditions that these guys suffered and raced in this past week. Late Models kicked off the weekend with Last Call on Wednesday. Just Late Models, a one-division show. Brandon Overton won the A-Main, and on Thursday night, Tim McCready finally got a long-awaited win at Charlotte. Series champ for 2020 is Brandon Sheppard. Hat tip to Brandon as the World of Outlaw Late Models title holder. And the sprint cars were also in town. They moved in on Friday and Saturday. Friday's A-Main won by David Gravel, and Saturday's by Logan Schuchart. Brad Sweet is the sprint car champion for the season. And one of the big races for the pavement modifieds, the North-South Shootout took place at Caraway Speedway here in the great state of North Carolina, up in Asheboro. Max McLaughlin. Super Shoe is Corey LaJoy. I'm thinking of Magic Shoes. Magic Shoes kid, Mike McLaughlin's kid, Max McLaughlin, took his first ever pavement modified win, driving Gary Putnam's car, the 77 for Putnam's ride. And Max scoring his first tour win. How cool is that? Gosh, I used to watch his dad race super modifieds, dirt modifieds, and pavement late models or pavement modifieds when I was a kid. Does that mean I'm experienced? That means I'm getting older. That's how it is when these kids, I remember them born, and finally, gosh, here they are winning the races, and they're shoving old guys like me to the side. As I talked about, the World of Outlaws concluded their season with the Last Call. 4 straight nights of racing here in Charlotte, and the dust is settling just now, figuratively, but this comes from a literal criticism. I was not out at the dirt track, but it has been nicknamed the Dust Track by so many people that were out there with the horrible conditions that the track was in, just a dust bowl that you couldn't really see. I saw the film. I agree with you, but this has been a case for this track year after year after year. I have more often than not seen a dusty track that you really can't even view the race on. I've seen some good racing at the dirt track with multiple grooves and passing high, middle, and low, so I was fortunate for that. However, the dust, man, gosh, a couple times over the last 15 years, I can count where it wasn't a dusty surface, but the heavy, tacky clay that is really good for racing and good for viewing. Gosh, I can count on one hand over the years that I've seen a race like that. So often, gosh, the dust is immense, where you can't even look and view the races, and you're just covered in dust. Not dirt, but dust, where it just puts up a cloud, covers the grandstands. Spectators can't view the race. Guys in the pit area can't view the cars, and guys on the track can't see where they're going. You'd think that Charlotte Motor Speedway and SMI would be able to come up with something better than that, since most of the dirt tracks throughout the country have some very talented people that prep their surface and really put on a good show. Clear racing, tacky track, multiple grooves, lots of passing, but you can see where you're going and what's going on. Just a failure at the dirt track for so many years there. And some folks pointed it out this year. They couldn't believe these conditions. It's horrible. Yeah, you're right. However, it's been going on for quite a while. What's the solution? I don't know. Bring a guy in that knows how to do it. Anybody know Tony Stewart's cell? I know a lot of people watching this show that knows cell, and a lot of people in my phone do. There's a lot of good folks out there that can prep a very good dirt track and bring it in. Charlotte certainly needs their help for races in the future. They've needed it for years, but it reared its ugly head again with the World of Outlaws trying to race there this past weekend. As I talked about a moment ago, we settled the NASCAR National Touring Series championships with their phony championship playoff system. I've always been careful over the years in how I phrase my wording on this. I am a fan of the Bob Latford system, where we start counting points in February and we quit counting at the end of the season, and the person with the most points is the champion. That's simple, that's racing, that's how it ought to be. I have always criticized the system and not the drivers. There's some drivers out there, I said a few years ago, for instance, Chase Elliott winning the Cup Series championship yesterday. These drivers do not decide the format they race under, and I don't criticize them. If I've said a few years ago that, gosh, if I was not a media member and I was just a fan in the grandstands, who would I pick to root for? And Chase Elliott may be my guy. I like humility. I like a guy that's self-critical. I like a good racer and a clean racer, and Chase, for the most part, is that. I can count to some points over the years where it's like, yeah, he rubbed the guy. I remember he moved some guys out of the way at Martinsville, things like that. But, I can't point to a guy out there that's 100% clean, but Chase would be a guy I would root for if I was a fan. I get that, but I certainly won't take his championship away from him or criticize the championship. I've always criticized the format. Since 2003 was the last legitimate championship format we had. Matt Kenseth is the true champion. After all that, 2004, who knows what they would look like. I don't believe in this. I did not watch any of the Truck Series race on Friday. I watched none of the Truck Series race on Saturday. I watched a few laps of the Xfinity, or what is it? I'll say it right. Yeah, the Cup Series race on Sunday. But the playoff format has lost me totally as an observer and a keen fan of this sport. I just don't do it. Playoffs have no business in auto racing, and it's just a format I hate. And the people at NASCAR all have their cute little business degrees and sports marketing degrees, and none of them are racers and know what true race fans want. Most fans that are on board with this system, I got to say, are newer fans that have started watching it in the last 5 to 10 years. The old school fans, when you look at those old videos of races in the early 2000s and the 90s, so many of those fans are long gone and they're not coming back, which is a shame. But this when I talk to people just bench racing, at lunch, at dinner, at breakfast, at coffee, when I come across race fans and we talk, the playoff format is a big, big part of their turnoff to the sport and how they don't follow it anymore. Which brings us to several drivers bowing out, and let's begin with Jimmie Johnson. right in line with this topic with his 7 championships. Jimmie Johnson is an interesting guy, and I want to criticize the title format in which he won his titles under. All 7 came under a playoff format. Thumbs down to me. When he came off of turn 4 and won his 7th title at Homestead, Miami a few years ago, Rick Allen had that famous call, make room, Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. No, no, no. Jimmie Johnson's 7 titles do not go into the same league as Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. I will never believe that. However, Johnson is criticized largely in that same format because he is, in fact, one of arguably the best drivers the sport has ever seen. With his win total well into the 80s and his competitive nature, top 5s, top 10s, laps led, you could certainly tell Jimmie Johnson is absolutely Hall of Fame material and one of the greatest to ever come along this sport. I just do not hold his 7 titles in the same light as I hold Dale Earnhardt's and Richard Petty's 7. They're not comparable. They're not the same thing. Under the Latford system, what would have happened? I don't know. It's tough to tell. You can't just take the playoff format out, plug in the old points, and that would have been your results. That's not how this works, because with the playoff format, once you win a race in the playoffs, guys race differently. They've raced that way since 2004 when this championship first started in that regard with a chase style format. You race differently, so you can't just take the points out and plug them in. There have been arguments of how many titles Jeff Gordon would have had. Now, what would Kevin Harvick have done this year? What would Kyle Busch have done? I don't know. It's tough to tell because you race differently under a format or a playoff format than you did the Latford system when you just started counting points in February. You race differently, so you can't take it out and plug it in. Now, under the Latford system, who knows what Jimmie Johnson would have done? Maybe the man would have 8 titles, 9 titles, 10 titles. I don't know. Maybe he would not have won any. Maybe he would have been the Mark Martin of this generation where he didn't have any titles. I don't know. We'll never know. It's impossible to tell. I have a double-edged sword with Jimmie Johnson. Nice guy, great guy, fantastic guy, great racer, good racer, fantastic racer. Hall of Fame material, wins championships, one of the greatest talents the sport has ever seen. But his titles under this playoff format just do not work for me. I criticize the system, not the driver, because Jimmie Johnson has been first class all the way. I tip my hat to him as he leaves NASCAR racing full time. He may be back for some events. I don't know. However, I am greatly looking forward to him continuing racing in the IndyCar Series in 2021. He'll be on hand for a partial schedule. I am very excited to see that. I can't wait to see what he does next year. To me, the racing season doesn't begin and end and revolve around the Cup season. It is a big part of it, of the landscape of American motorsports, but I am thrilled to be watching Jimmie Johnson in some IndyCar races and 2021. He has never been a needle mover of the sport. He has been critical. His career being vanilla, plain, up close and personal, the guy's a riot. He's got a heck of a personality and a sense of humor, but he never came across in the general public as being anything but plain. His talent is there. The race wins are there, but he never moved the needle. A guy like Petty and Earnhardt, they move the needle. Kyle Busch moves the needle. Rusty Wallace moved the needle. You know what I mean? Guys that got a reaction or had that energy or power to them. Those are the kind of folks that just drew energy to the sport. Jimmie, for all his wins and titles, never really moved the needle. Could we blame that on the playoff systems and the fan decline? Sure we could. The sport, since the inception of this chase playoff type format, has done nothing but contract. These were the highlights of the early 2000s, a fantastic point of the sport where we looked up and we couldn't even see the ceiling. The sky wasn't the limit. It was way beyond the sky. Then we started making changes to the sport, and it's been downhill ever since. Jimmie Johnson's titles began with his first one on the 3rd year of a playoff-style format, and then they've all come as the sport shrank and shrank and shrank. Do we fault Johnson for that, or do we fault NASCAR for that? Would Johnson's personality have come across better, or would he have been a bigger deal under the Latford system? We'll never know. But this is the stuff that keeps a racing radio talk show host up at night when he thinks about these things, is what would Jimmie Johnson have done or meant to the sport under what I call, or old school fans call, a legit championship system. Racing, the Busch Series, with the trucks when they came out, the Cup, Winston Cup, was all must-see TV for me. As I got into media, I traveled around, I went to so many races. I never missed a lap of these things when they were on ESPN and TNN and network television. I was in front. I watched the race. I went to the race, and wherever it was, I was always involved every weekend. This past weekend, I watched a couple laps total. It's like, I just can't get into it. Don't even get me started on stages. I'm an old school guy. I long for old school NASCAR. I think it would have been better today if we kept our systems in place from years past. Some other folks that are saying goodbye, and we want to talk about them as they step away from the sport or transition into new roles. Clint Bowyer ran his final Cup race yesterday at Phoenix. He will go into the broadcast booth. This could be a storytelling, funny time in NASCAR broadcasting. Bowyer's a riot on track. I think of Bowyer in the same light as I look at Chase Elliott. If I was a fan and not a member of the media, Bowyer could be my guy, or at least one of my guys. So much fun, so much personality. Great guy to hang out with. He's the leading guy you'd want to drink beer with on the Cup circuit. And he was a winner. He won races. He was competitive. He was a good guy to root for. So now his voice, his personality, and in the sense of humor come to the Fox broadcast booth for 2021 alongside Jeff Gordon. And I wonder if the two of them are going to finish that fight in Phoenix from so many years ago that they chased each other. The crews got into it. The cars were wrecked. That's got to be one of the leading jokes next year at Speed Weeks with Mike Joy, Jeff Gordon, and Clint Bowyer in the Fox broadcast booth. Matt Kenseth stepped into the Chip Ganassi Racing's Chevrolet for Kyle Larson earlier this year. Matt Kenseth took that ride because it was a partial season and not a full season with the COVID pause. He will be stepping away again for 2021. But it's Black Monday pretty much as we look at November the 9th. NASCAR racing around here in Mooresville and Charlotte has layoffs every year. Every single year the sport contracts. We have layoffs, and there's good people that make careers out of this that got to do something else. Get fired, laid off. It's just the finances and business end of the sport. It's tough. Following the conclusion of the 2008 racing season, this is how I found my way into this show, into broadcasting, writing. I pursued that avenue of the sport because I was a former crew guy. Sponsorship went away. I lost my job. I couldn't get another one. I needed to do something else. Since my radio show was born. That's the short story of it, but opportunity comes out of an end of a racing season, and so many folks lose their job. This is a tough way to make a living. It's even tougher to make a career out of because it chews you up and spits you out, and it's tough to just hold a paycheck in here. Even the very, very talented championship-winning people, it happens. I've been around town. I've seen some pickup trucks roll around with toolboxes in the back from these guys coming home from their shops. Toolbox in hand, it means you're out of work and looking for a new job. It's a sad sight, but it is absolutely 100% part of real life here around Charlotte, North Carolina. So I wish all the crew members and team personnel well as they make transitions, find new careers, go to new teams, I don't know, what have you. We'll see what happens. One of those folks is Krista Voda from NBC, as she did her final broadcast for the network yesterday in Phoenix. Very talented individual, but she is one of the many folks that have come to the sport and started right at the Cup level with no racing experience. Now, Krista has been a very good on-air person for the sport, but she had to learn the sport, and she started at the Cup level. which so many people have. It has been somewhat damaging to the sport as far as new hires into Daytona Beach and NASCAR, with folks that have no experience or knowledge of short track racing and coming up through the sport. They just have experience elsewhere, come into the top levels of the sport, and so much damage has been done. That's the type of template that has caused NASCAR a lot of bruises and pain over the years. Now, someone like Chris Devoda came in. Were there other broadcasters that could have been better fills on that job? Remember, through Totally NASCAR, Fox, Speed, NBC. I don't know. Krista wound up doing a fantastic job throughout her career in NASCAR, but I wonder what some other people would have looked like that come up through the ranks that work in short track racing, and would they have been gotten an opportunity to step up into the Cup Series and broadcasting and see what they would have looked like. Krista, I wish her well. She'll be missed because she was someone that came in with no knowledge of the sport, but never came across as such. She certainly worked hard, did her homework, and came across as an expert and a pro in this sport from so many years ago. I wish some other folks would come up through the ranks of short track racing and find their way into the upper levels of NASCAR through business and or broadcasting. That would be good to see. Chris Devoda will not be part of your NBC broadcast for next year. I wish her well, and we'll see where she lands as far as the racing world goes. One other guy that stepped away from the world of outlaws as a full-time nomad in the sprint car series, Daryn Pittman, ran with the series for 23 years. He did 17 with them as a full-time outlaw touring guy. His resume is pretty full. 2013 sprint car champion. He won 86 A mains, started over 1,400 features. Was the what did he win? Kings Royal 2008. He's got 2 Gold Cup victories at the Silver Dollar Speedway in California. Done so much, but even being on the road that long. Daryn Pittman, a heck of a dirt track racer, series champion. He will be stepping away. So here we are in November. This time of year, a few weeks to Thanksgiving. The sport changes. Drivers step away. Crew members, broadcasters, we're all in a transition stage. We'll see what 2021 brings. We certainly didn't predict what 2020 will bring. Everybody on January 1st, I said, where are you going to be in 6 months? I think we all failed that test. So, Jimmie Johnson, fare thee well. I'm looking forward to seeing you in IndyCar. Clint Bowyer will be in the Fox booth. Matt Kenseth, I think he'll be down the road from me on the lake because he doesn't live that far from me. Chris Devoda will not be on NBC NASCAR broadcast, but I wish her well. I don't know where she's going to land. And Daryn Pittman will still be around dirt tracks and racing, but he won't be a full-timer on the World of Outlaws sprint car circuit. Speedway Report's Racer of the Week, in spite of all the criticism I gave here, I thought, much like what we ask our Hall of Famers, or what I think of a Hall of Famer in the NASCAR Hall, are the numbers there? Not necessarily the numbers. They can be telling. But the biggest question I ask anybody is, what did you bring to the sport? What did you do for the sport? What did you contribute to the sport? That really strikes home for me for a Hall of Famer. Now, on a smaller scale, what's a Speedway Report Racer of the Week? What did you do for the sport? What did you do this week? What have you done over your career? When I think of it in that regard, as critical as I am of the systems and the championships, got to give it to Jimmie Johnson as my Racer of the Week. The first class that he brought to the series, all the wins, all that he's done. I'm not a fan of the way he won his championships, but I'm a fan of all the races he won, the way he carried, and the way he represented the sport. First class racer and guy all the way. And I used to work with his brother years ago at Michael Waltrip Racing in the early 2000s. Good family, a lot of fun, good racers, right from their dad on down. So it's Jimmie Johnson. This must be the biggest reward in racing he's ever gotten, is the Racer of the Week, right here from Speedway Report. Never mind those 7 cups, right here. Here is where it's at. You keep up on our world of racing with SpeedwayReport.com. We've got all our shows archived, so please you need to take a road trip, download some podcasts right here, especially with the holidays coming up. Going to see your in-laws, Thanksgiving, Christmas, yeah, you need a Speedway Report podcast. Take us with you and listen on the road. Catch up with us on social media with Facebook at Racers Reunion or at SpeedwayReport.com. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. And catch up with us on RacersReunion.com as well as our YouTube channel. Big thanks to everyone in the chat room tonight. I'll go check on you guys right on that screen over there in a little bit. I want to thank all of the military, past and present, for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You've been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. On the Drag Racing List Facebook page right now, you can join Bill Pratt and John Baukelman in about 4 minutes at the top of the hour for Drag List Live. I'll be back live here on Facebook Monday, November the 16th. Lots of racing. We've got the 12 hours of Sebring. We've got Formula One in Istanbul. And I think we've got some late season short tracks we can dig up. Thanks to everybody for watching. You take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'll see you all next week.